In this video, I'm going to teach you how to instantly improve your color skills, but I'm not going to do this by diving into color theory lessons or teach you how to mix new colors. And that's because those lessons don't really stick until you fix the number one mistake that artists make, which is not paying attention to value. In this video, I'll show you why value matters, how to see it more clearly, and I'll share the incredibly impactful exercise that artists like Van Gogh and Picasso used to become masters of value. If you didn't know it already, value refers to the lightness or darkness of a color. And when it comes to creating depth and making objects look 3D, value does all of the heavy lifting. Let me show you what I mean. This colored pencil sketch, submitted by a beginner in my 3-Pencil Magic mini course, has colors that look pretty close to the photo reference. Achieving that range of colors with just 3 pencils is impressive on its own, but this drawing still feels flat, and this flatness has nothing to do with color. The lack of depth in this drawing is because the value in the shadow isn't deep enough. Without strong shadows, the light can't move convincingly across the pear and it loses its sense of form. Now, watch what happens when I deepen just the shadow. No new colors, no blending tricks, just a darker value. Suddenly, the pear transforms. It looks round, solid, lifelike. The whole drawing levels up with this one small but powerful change. And that's the magic of mastering value. So, how do you actually train your eye to see value clearly? This is where Bargue studies come in. Bargue drawings are classical exercises originally developed for 19th century art students that guide you step by step through the process of simplifying complex forms and rendering shadows with precision. These studies strip away the noise that makes photo references tricky, like messy lighting, distracting textures, and unclear shadows, and instead helps you zero in on what really matters: value. Hold tight because I'm about to drop tons of tips and show you exactly how to get started with one of these exercises. But before I do, I just really want to take a moment to emphasize how transformational these exercises can be and how overlooked they've been by the colored pencil community, which I feel is a huge mistake. Studying value this way was a game changer in my own training, and it's exactly why I've woven classical approaches like Bargue studies into my signature program, the Color Lab. Now, don't worry if the idea of copying old master drawings sounds a little intimidating. You're not alone. Inside the Color Lab, I also have accessible bite-sized exercises that make mastering value a breeze for artists of all levels. By week 2, students in this program are already using these concepts in their drawings and seeing real breakthroughs. If that sounds like something that you'd love to explore, I'll share more about that program and early bird pricing at the end of this video. Let's get started by talking about the materials you'll need. First, you'll need a printed Bargue plate. I recommend printing it the exact size that you plan to draw. This allows you to practice measuring techniques and turns this study into a meaningful drawing practice and not just a value exercise. For your surface, I suggest using a sketchbook. It keeps your mindset loose and experimental rather than being overly perfectionistic. In this demo, I'm using a dark polychromos colored pencil to lay in my initial sketch. But if colored pencil feels a little bit intimidating, you could use an erasable colored pencil like Kohl Erase or use graphite, either just for the initial sketch or for the entire drawing. There are no hard rules here, but I do encourage you to practice with the materials that you want to get better with. I've included links to my favorite sketchbook and supplies in the video description, along with a great website for finding Bargue plates. If your goal is to improve your drawing skills, start by laying down simple marks that establish the main proportions. Work from general to specific. Some Bargue plates are broken down into stages, sometimes up to 3, which shows you how to start with loose proportions and gradually refine them. If you're working from one of these plates, take advantage of that step-by-step guidance. It's a huge help. If your primary focus for this exercise is value and not drawing, you can absolutely trace the outline using a light table or tracing paper. But whether you're drawing or tracing, be sure to include the shadow shapes right from the start. When you look at a Bargue plate, you'll notice that the first stage is just a line drawing, no shading, no value, but the lines aren't just describing the outlines around the features or the silhouette of the head. They're also clearly defining the boundaries of the shadows. And noticing and drawing those shadow shapes is so important for making your drawings feel three-dimensional. Once you've mapped out where the shadows fall, you can begin to fill them in. Start with very light, even pressure and aim for consistency rather than darkness at this stage. You'll have plenty of opportunity to darken and refine these areas in later layers. As you work, don't treat this like a coloring book. Keep referring back to your Bargue plate and refining your shapes as you go. Sometimes I imagine that the initial drawing isn't even mine, that I'm editing somebody else's work. This mindset helps me stay objective and push my proportions and shapes toward greater accuracy. That said, your proportions do not have to be 100% perfect for this to be a powerful exercise. The more you practice observing and drawing value, the better you're going to get at it. So don't stress if your first study isn't flawless. That's exactly where we all start. At this point, you're working with two values, the white of the paper and the light, flat tone that represents the shadows in your drawing. I approach every one of my drawings by mapping in shadow shapes first, and this is where things often fall apart when working from a photo reference because shadows can be subtle or overly detailed or hard to define. That's one reason why Bargue exercises are so impactful. On these Bargue plates, the separation between light and shadow is crystal clear. There's no guesswork. As you practice these studies, your ability to spot shadow shapes in your own references will sharpen. You'll start seeing form more clearly, and that will make your colors more effective too. Now that the initial shadow shapes are laid in, I can see a clear roadmap for the drawing. This gives me confidence to intentionally start adding more detail and darker values. I'm getting more precise in the second layer, but I'm also preserving that original shadow shape. The original block of value is structural. It holds the entire drawing together. Yes, you can add subtle variation within the shadow, but when you squint, all the information should still sit clearly within that original shadow shape. This is a completely different way of drawing. You're not outlining features like the lips or the eyes. Instead, you're focusing on the shadows and allowing the features to emerge naturally from the value transitions. I know it's so tempting to want to go in and draw the eye on the shadow side, but if you harshly carve this feature out, you're going to lose all sense of realism. Instead, look for one or two shapes that are slightly darker than the surrounding shadow and draw those shapes in. That will allow the eye to emerge gradually and subtly. This way of drawing requires a shift in mindset, but it's exactly the kind of shift that will elevate your artwork, not just in this drawing, but in every original piece you create moving forward. And that's the deeper reason why we do studies like this in the first place. My 8-week signature program, The Color Lab, is full of these transformative mindset shifting exercises. We dive into short, focused studies and projects that help you efficiently build real understanding of color and master the techniques that matter most for colored pencil artists. And the best part, you're not doing it alone. Inside the program, you'll get direct support and feedback on your work, so you always know what to focus on next. Sure, you could try to piece together YouTube videos and hope that they get you closer to your goals, but that approach takes a lot of time, and without clear guidance, it's easy to get stuck wondering why something isn't working. If you've been feeling stuck, overwhelmed, or unsure about how to move forward with your art, the Color Lab is here to help. Enrollment is open now, and early bird pricing is available for a limited time. You'll find all the details in the video description below. I'd love to support you inside this program and help you take your colored pencil skills and confidence to the next level.